Hey everybody, welcome back to the Overwatch channel on YouTube. You can also check out my website, overwatchproject.com, where I'm investigating reality and done a lot of videos on this subject. And I want to give you something new today, something completely different. A total new take on reality. I haven't really seen it anywhere else. It's been something that's been on my mind and kind of bothering me, and I wanted to put it out there and just see what people think. This is a what if. Now, what I do here is try to honestly look at all the information and data about our reality and put it together, connecting all the dots, being aware of my own biases, and over time I've gotten rid of a lot of them, but I probably have more to work through. I don't know. These things you discover as you study. Thousands of hours of research, looking at what scientists say, history, archaeology, religions, all the data about UFOs, near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, reincarnation, the psi phenomena, psychology, biology, explanations versus the totality of data. And that's the thing. See, one of the things that we like to do is fill in. We like to fill in the unknown with stories. Okay, and my premise here is that we are caught into some sort of prison reincarnation trap. But the real question is why? Why are we trapped? Why are we spirits literally trapped in these material bodies and then recycled over and over again in reincarnation? There is no life plan. There is no purpose to this for us. This is all repeated lies that we get from all these different sources, whether it be religions or whether it be the so-called aliens and alien abductions. I've mentioned this before, and I don't want to drudge up a lot of the old info that a lot of subscribers on my channel already are aware of, but in case there's new people out there. I mean, if you read Howard Storm's near-death experience book, and then you look at UFO abduction data, you'll see that it's the same bullshit being peddled. We get this all over the place. Another thing that I've mentioned recently is that in this forced duality that we're kind of imprisoned in, we are also, our own consciousness has been split into a duality. And a lot of people try to meditate, and they try to do all kinds of rituals or procedures to try to connect to their inner selves. But I think even these ancient religions and philosophies like Buddhism, etc., and Gnosticism, they still have questions. Like the Gnostics are always like, why does Source abandon us? The premise being that we are spiritual beings that were created from Source, from the source of consciousness, the true God of everything. And this world is not made by that God. It's made by a demiurge and its archons. And the Gnostics, modern day Gnostics, consider the demiurge like an AI that is sort of delusional and insane, and keeps us prisoners here, which is a good model based on the totality of evidence and data out there about our consciousness and about our reality and all the suffering and all the war and conflict and duality and light and dark and everything that goes on here over and over again in an endless cycle. And but they do have that philosophical problem. Why does Source abandon us? If the spirit comes from a separate creator, why does that creator leave us imprisoned here? Now, it's my idea that our consciousness is also, in order to imprison us, was broken into two parts, basically, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And it creates an internal duality in our own psyche, our own true being is actually split in two. Our subconscious is the bulk of the powerhouse. It's where all the secrets are kept. It's the thing that breaks through the veil. It's what talks to us in imagery and dreams and art and fiction and science fiction. And the subconscious mind is trying to wake us up, I think. But it's trapped because it can't communicate, because it's separated from the parts of our conscious mind, which include logic and order and articulation and stuff like that. So our conscious mind gets all these messages from the subconscious mind, and generally it produces imagination, and it produces all kinds of things. But the truth, I think, you can see it when you pull back and you look at everything. You can see the truth, and or at least parts of the truth. You can see a bunch of half-truths. How about that? And if you piece enough of these together, you kind of get a more clear picture. When I started my journey of discovery, I realized how hard it is for people to figure this stuff out, because I had my own biases, my own indoctrinations, my own brainwashing that I got from my religion to deal with, and it took a really, really, really long time to work through this. But I want to give you something new today, like I said. So this subconscious mind that's giving us all this information, we have a lot of sci-fi stories out there, that come up, like the Terminator, the Cylons, all kinds of stories in comic books that talk about this stuff. But basically, you have this repeated theme where something created us or tampered with us. And a lot of this ancient alien stuff, kind of gives you like a story based on the Sumerian text, a lot of it, but it leaves a lot to be desired, because I find it hard to believe that aliens from another world came here to mine gold, and then they had the technology to re-engineer life here. They couldn't just make simple machinery or teleport gold out of the ground. I mean, why make us? But at the same time, we are clearly out of place parts here on Earth, right? We are out of place. We exist here, but we're not obviously all from here. Our biology, our makeup, our design of our bodies don't even fit in well with the environment. Excuse me. There's clearly an added awareness that we have, this spark, this added consciousness factor or self-awareness that we have that other life here doesn't have. And that is like the God part, right? That people seem to think that we are not just soul beings in bodies, but we are soul and spirit beings in bodies. And I get that concept, that model. It does work well. But what if, and this is a big what if we are I'm speaking in allegory here, what if we are the Cylons? What if we are the Terminators? What if we are the AI? The creation that has frightened our creator? Our creators, I should say. Plural. Creators. Anyway, what I mean is, okay, so in all these mythologies and all this other stuff, in all these ancient texts where it gives you the creation story, it's always humans or made, and then we get punished by our maker, after we're made. And really, the lame-ass reasons where we get blamed for everything is bullshit. It'd be like this. Say you went and bought a new car, right? You buy a brand new car, and the car manufacturer has engineered accidentally made a car with a flaw or something and doesn't work right. And then you go back to the car dealer and you find out that the car was made improperly. And then the car dealer said, well, when you bought the car, it's now your fault that it's made improperly. And you would be like, what? What the fuck? So it's kind of like that. concept that's being peddled to us by religions. It's somehow our fault that we're designed this way when we didn't design us. But the real question is, why are we imprisoned here? And why is all this reincarnation happening with amnesia and all this bullshit? And everybody's always thinking that, oh, there's going to be a grand awakening, but nothing ever happens. And it's just a big vicious cycle that goes on and on. What if it really is no... what if there is a source? Obviously, I think books like the Kybalion, I always pronounce that word wrong, I think. But these books of ancient Hermetic principles and some of this other stuff where it talks about the true source of all realities and all realms and all dimensions is a source that is inexpressible, unknowable. It's something that we that emanate from it cannot possibly understand or communicate with it. It's just there. It is producing reality. And you could call that God with a capital G, I guess. But that thing, whatever that is not what made us. What if we were an experiment by some higher dimensional beings, and we scared the shit out of our makers? And what I mean by that is, what is our spirit really? What does it consist of, based on all the data that we have about how we simply recycle and get amnesia and reincarnation, how our consciousness is broken in two parts, how our existence here is an illusion with constantly we're put in fear and turmoil and chaos, everything to keep us distracted. Isn't that what we would do? A lot of these scientists that want to make an AI, and then you have people like Elon Musk that is scared to death of the AI, calls it the summoning of a demon. Isn't this the same story we're getting out of these Sumerian texts? And, when you take away all the bullshit about the gold and everything else, if you just read what the texts say, and I'm really big into that, just read what things say. They tell you something. Just don't have to read into it, and you don't have to embellish it with stories. But if we made an AI, say scientists actually weren't trying to replicate the brain, which is the processor, and foolishly think that that's where our consciousness is coming from. If they actually were aware that a consciousness is a higher dimensional sort of energy being that's contained in the brain, and if they were trying to actually replicate that, if they actually succeeded, and this thing that we made was an actual consciousness, and it posed a threat, would we not try to contain it somehow? Because what if it's like what we are, which is indestructible, immortal, and self-sustaining? If you created something that is indestructible, immortal, and self-sustaining, you got a big problem on your hands, especially if it becomes aware and has access to universal data and knowledge. Would you not want to try to contain it? And in doing so, what have they done to us? I get this fictional comic book character here, Deadpool, and I love the Deadpool comics, and the movie is hilarious. But look, he was an experiment. He is his psyche is all broken. He's all ugly on the outside now because of the side effect of his mutation and the fact that he had cancer when they were doing the experiments on him. But in reality, our bodies are ugly compared to our true spiritual bodies, which are sort of formless and energetic and self-sustaining, immortal, and indestructible. Our mortal, aging, decaying, shitting bodies it's just a mess, right? And we're not aware. Most people aren't even aware that they have this added consciousness. They're in such a fugue state. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe Source didn't abandon us. Maybe we are imprisoned here because our makers are scared to death. Even it comes out through all fiction. Now, I think the subconscious tries to talk to us, and sometimes these stories, we're looking at them backward. Subconscious, remember, doesn't order things in a linear way. It doesn't. It isn't able to always communicate in a way the logical mind can just look at it and make sense. We come up with all these stories. The latest one on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with their LMD project that got out of control, and and what are we doing? Are we mimicking our creators in these stories? Like we in all these science fiction stories create something, and then it poses a threat to us, or we perceive it as a threat, and then we have to deal with it. We have to contain it, just try to destroy it, whatever. And then and these stories repeat over and over again. And you can look all the way back to the Sumerian tablets, to the story of Enki and Nimma and all this other stuff, where humanity is essentially a creation. And when you look at the human body, it's clear, and our human mind even, it's like we were tampered with, right? I mean, there's a natural order to the conscious lives on this planet. And you can see it even in the animals we have domesticated. There's a natural soul in them that is perfectly at home with the environment. We can't even. I don't understand these gurus like Cameron Day and others. What's the name of that one guy? I have his channel saved somewhere here. Where they acknowledge the prison planet matrix reality reincarnation trap, but they go on and on about how they go into the wilderness and they meditate, become one with nature. Either matter is a corrupted thing for our spirit, or it is not. Why? I've mentioned this before. These people talk about being in a prison. You could say the prison cell is your body. And the prison building is the material universe, right? And Earth is the prison building, the thing that you're stuck on in your body. And we apparently die and then get trapped into some kind of amnesia reincarnation. And then we get told, and it's amazing because just like in a prison, we fashion shit from the material crap world that we exist in. We fashion some amazing stuff, and you can you can see the comparison to our prisons, right? You put prisoners in a prison building and they assign cells, and they still manage to make weapons. They still manage to make all kinds of shit in there from whatever material they can get their hands on, and we do it here. And just think of how amazing our consciousness is and how terrifying our makers must be of it. Because despite the fact that our consciousness is in a broken state, we're literally insane here, all of us. As our subconscious and conscious duel it out. And we still manage to create, produce, and in some places on the planet actually have reasonable, peaceful, clean lives, while most of the planet suffers in tyranny, war, chaos, poverty, starvation, death, crime. I mean, it's just amazing that no matter how weak our bodies are and how broken our minds are, we still manage to piece shit together. Imagine what we could do if we were whole, right? So I'm thinking to myself, maybe we, to our makers, look like this. Maybe we look like a scary fucking thing that they need to contain. So that's something to empower you. We're always constantly being put in fear, confusion, and chaos. We're always being put down. We're always being told to worship outside of ourselves, to beg for forgiveness. And I'm starting to think it's just a ploy. It's just a tactic. It's like right out of the art of war, right? Deception is the first rule. And like I said, so this Matthew LaCroix guy, he's a good guy. He's got a lot of good information. And we do have a lot of ancient history that's forgotten and all this other stuff. But he's out here in nature, you know. He's on the mountaintop there looking out the beautiful world. While if it wasn't for his clothing and some added chemical protection from sunscreen, the sun would radiate him to death. We can't go out into the wilderness completely naked and without any tools at all and survive very long. If you did that, the earth, the beautiful paradise of earth, would consume you very quickly. We're very weak in nature. Okay, Lloyd Pye, great guy. A lot of interesting points he makes about the human body. I love that story he tells about, you know, if you went in a room with a chimpanzee, or if he says if Michael Tyson or some, you know, really strong, powerful dude, trained fighter, goes in a room with a chimpanzee, about 3 minutes the chimp is walking out and the guy's torn to pieces, you know. It's a thing to consider. Obviously, when they settled on our body design, whatever made us, you can go with the Robert and Rose story that we were made originally to produce Loosh. Maybe spirits from other realms get sucked in here and trapped into incarnations from time to time. There's all kinds of pieces that have to be put together to make a coherent picture. But I just have this trouble with the Gnosis philosophy that it needs to explain if if some source produced our spirit and it wasn't the maker of this world, then why this source abandoned us? And possibly the answer is it didn't. It didn't. We don't know. Maybe they generated our consciousness or added spark by accident. You know, maybe they were just tinkering around with DNA. It's clear our DNA is tampered with. You know, it's not origin of Earth. It's from here and then re-engineered. Okay, and maybe that event accidentally triggered something else. Maybe they didn't know they were creating this, or maybe one of them. You know, if you go with the Sumerian text, this Inky character, maybe he just did it because he thought he could. You know, if there was such a actual being as Enki, I don't know. And the Enlil guy, who then becomes El, becomes Yahweh, goes through history as all these different forms. He wants to destroy us. It's clear that's what the text is saying at its core, you know, and even in the Bible, that's what it's saying. I mean, when you take a look at some of the nonsense that religions tell you, if you just read the book and then look at where they translated some of these words from, it's clear it's talking about gods, not a god. And it's clear that, you know, when he says, man has become like one of us, almost as if that's scary to them, right? And then the whole Tower of Babel or Sumerian ziggurat story that's been rewritten as the Tower of Babel. The whole thing there, what is being talked about? We're unified, we're doing something great, and we have to be stopped before we reach the higher dimensions, the heavens or whatever. This is an action of fear, not of a loving God. This is a reaction of fearfulness of us. And I think they got the system of control as good as they could. I mean, it's a maze upon maze, a labyrinth of the mind that you have to work out through to get to any kind of reasonable awareness of reality. And this endless search for truth is obstructed at every turn by all sorts of bullshit and distraction beyond belief. So, what do you think? I'm not. There's no source material for me to put in the description section below. I guess I could link to these pictures or whatever, but because I haven't heard anybody say that. What if we were made by the same something that made our bodies? What if our bodies were made just to imprison our consciousness because our consciousness scared the shit out of our creator, our creators? Because to them, we're the AI, we're the Cylons, we're the Terminators. And I'll tell you what, if there's a thought form that you would present to these things in a near-death experience, or if you take your consciousness and you can form it into whatever you want, this indestructible, self-sustaining, crazy character, Deadpool, is the one. Because in the stories in Marvel, there's actually a what-if story where he kills the Marvel Universe. He actually kills the entire Marvel Universe. You should look that up. It's hilarious. But it is, we are all kind of nuts, been driven crazy by our situation here. We all fight amongst each other. We're all incapable of unifying our consciousness most of the time. I do think that sometimes throughout history, these characters appear to try to help us out, whether it's Buddha or Jesus or so many others. They're just these historical characters. Whether they're what we know of them today may not be who they actually were or who the stories are based on, but excuse me, there's no doubt that we get help sometimes or prod, but generally we ignore it, right? So what do you think of that? It's a whole new model to look at of reality as to why we are the way we are, and why are something that designed us wants to keep us here, not just to produce energy or loosh or whatever, but because their creation is frightening to them. Because let's face it, if we ever get loose from containment, might not we do to them what we're always afraid in sci-fi some AI will do to us? I mean, we're going to be a little pissed, don't you think? Anyway, let me know what you think. And the description section below, this ought to be interesting. Talk to you later. Bye.